Namaste, मेरा नाम Rhiannon ho. That's just a little taste of the Nepali language, which is what my presentation is going to be about. So my name is Rhiannon, and I went on the service trip to Nepal with the Bhagavad Foundation, as you all know, that's why you're here. So the Bhagavad Foundation is a local group dedicated to giving youth in the Hudson Valley and international youth, like the youth in Nepal, a voice and a platform to share their experiences and opinions, beliefs, ideals. But like Elise said, they're also dedicated to creating a cross-cultural exchange between youth here and youth in Nepal specifically. If you want to know more about the foundation and their mission, there's a ton of people around who will love to answer your questions, myself included. Look for these shirts and anybody that you recognize from the beautiful photos. So I became involved with the Bhagavad Foundation in 2016, I think, when I performed with the dance company Vinegar Caravan at their Candle in the Heart show at SUNY College. Then this past year, I went to the Bhagavad Foundation and TMI project collaboration Heartbeats, where people they talked candidly about experiences. I think this specific show was about relationships, so they spoke very honestly and openly, which is what drew me in initially. That's where I first learned about the trip to Nepal, and that's where I first became interested in learning about the culture. And so then I went with them. I got accepted, I applied in the opposite order though. And then I went with them to Nepal. And in Nepal, there are a lot of things about the culture that interest me initially. The colors, all the vibrant, beautiful colors, the delicious food, specifically momos, which we ate a lot of and also learned sort of how to make. They're really difficult. Also the religious diversity, well, the Hindus and the Buddhists, they coexist peacefully in Nepal, which is really rare. You know how in America we have many different religions and they all sort of coexist together, but there's a little conflict. There's none of that in Nepal. There's no cross-religion conflict, really. But the thing that stood out to me most about Nepal was the Nepali language, which is really beautiful. It's like, I don't have any examples, but it's this really beautiful Sanskrit. It's beautiful. I think I've always kind of had a knack for language. A few years ago, when I was dancing with the Vinegar Caravan at their dance camp, there was this woman from India who came, and she taught us this traditional Indian dance, and along with it, there was this song, and none of the other girls or boys could understand or pick up what they were actually saying in the song, but I could. And so I was able to pick up what they were saying in the song, and then the woman gave me extra bangles for it, and I was really happy, and it just made me feel really proud. So, the Nepali language. When we were in Nepal, we did many different things. We visited tons of monasteries, temples, we walked around the Stupa, which the stupas, you'll be able to see it later. It's really beautiful. We also went to Sukete, which is this beach resort. We traveled 6 hours in a bus. It was crazy. It was really fun. We all sang and it was fun. It was a bonding experience. So we went to Sukete Beach Resort, which is where we stayed in the night. And then during the day, we would hike up this really steep mountainside. It was just really windy up to the Sri Singha Devi Primary School, which is where we did our service work. So at the school, we painted on the walls, and like we painted the alphabet, we painted numbers and different pictures, and we painted with the kids, we did arts and crafts with the kids, we did sports with the kids. There's like a lot of the pictures from in this exhibit are from the service work at the Singadevi school. And that's where I learned most of the language. Not most. I learned tiny, tiny sentences. It's very difficult. But the first thing I learned is how to say what is your name, which is, okay, so you say nam keho, so nam, ke, ho. That means what is your name? And I first initially wanted to learn that from our our guide in Nepal, Keel, KB. He taught it to me because I wanted to be able to have just like the smallest interaction with the kids, because before I learned how to ask for their name, I was just like pointing at things, being like, here, use this paintbrush, and I knew that they couldn't understand what I was saying. So I asked how to ask for somebody's name, Nam Keho, and I don't know, there's something about learning somebody's name. It's like learning their identity, and like really, and it just like opened up this connection, which like wasn't there before, which I thought was really beautiful. And then I also learned how to say my own name. So then we had this rapport, sort of. It was the shortest rapport ever. Nam Keho, they said their name, and then I said my name. You say my name is Mero Nam, Mero, N-E-R-O, Mero Nam. So that's how you say my name is. And then at the end of your name, you say Ho. So Mero Nam, Rhiannon Ho, which is what I said at the beginning. And then something else really interesting that we learned how to say, we learned how to ask for manure. Because, so a little background on that. We brought fruit trees, which they specifically asked for. We brought fruit trees to plant at the school, and so we needed manure to plant the trees. And so our guide, KB, he taught us how to ask for manure. So I'm going to teach you how to ask for manure, because it's something you're going to use every day. So you say, Pripaya, ek, which means one, and then boda, moldenus. So Pripaya, ek, boda, moldenus. That was me at the beginning. It's fine. So after we learned, also I don't know if there's a picture of us learning how to ask for manure. There are definitely pictures with the people, the family that we were getting manure from. I think one of the picture, I don't know which number it is, but there's a picture of me playing a game with this boy. His family gave us manure, so thank you. And then at the end of that first day at the Singadevi school, we went back down the mountain. Terrifying, but so exhilarating. We went back down the mountain and we stayed at Sukete Beach Resort, and that's where I learned how to say my third thing. Yeah, so I learned how to say Kostocha, which means how are you? Kostocha. Kostocha. Okay. Kostocha. So that means how are you? And I wanted to learn that initially because, I knew their names, which is very important to learn somebody's identity, and then just to learn like how they're feeling, how they're doing at the exact moment, and like it wasn't anything like crazy. They would just respond to me, and then I would say how I was, and it was fine. So then you could ask somebody's name, tell them your name, ask how they are, and then say how you are. So how to respond to that question would be, if you're doing well, you'd say Malai, Tik, China, which means I'm good, I'm okay, yeah, it's going good. And then how you'd say, like, it's not going so great, you'd say Malai, Tik, Cha. So yeah. There was actually something really interesting about this. So we had a few guides. We had KB, we had his brother Sankar, and their friend Giri. So Sankar, KB are brothers, and I became really close with Sankar. He was like really cool. And so we were playing pool at the resort, and I asked KB, I was playing pool with Sankar, so I asked Sankar how to say, how are you? And he said, Kecha. And then I asked KB how to say, how are you? And he said, Kostocha. And I was like, what? It's two different things. And it was just really interesting how, like, you know, they're brothers. They see each other every day. They are from the same area, and they can still say something so differently, which I think is another really interesting thing about language. It can be so, like, diverse, but also, like, it means the same thing. You know? I don't know. Okay, that's just something interesting. And then we left Singadavi school, and we went back to Kathmandu, and we spent a few days in Kathmandu, and then we went to Kusigar, which is, you know, the home of all of the HCC teens. HCC was Himalayan Children's Charities, which is who we spent a lot of our time with. Some of the kids came with us on our adventures throughout the city. Their home is in Bhaktapur, and so it's Kusigar and Bhaktapur, right? Bhaktapur. Yeah, okay, just making sure. So we spent some time with Himalayan Children's Charities, and then at the end, like on the last day, we had this really beautiful, like, goodbye breakfast with everybody, like all the HCC teens, all of our teens, at Rokpa Guest House, which was not our hotel. It was our first choice, but we couldn't get it, so we stayed at Harmika, yeah, Hotel Harmika. Also beautiful, just not our first choice. It's fine. And so that is where I learned to say my favorite thing, which is I love you. This boy Prim, he taught me how to say I love you. And so it's way longer than I love you, but so you say Moto, Millie, Maya, Gorchu. They do this thing with their R's that I can't do, but you get it. And I think what struck us all is the fact that Maya means love. I think that's a lot. That's one of the reasons why Nepal and why, just like why we wanted to go to Nepal, why we wanted to help out there. Maya was really dedicated to helping in Nepal. She went with her parents, and so Maya means love. And it's really cool. So, and when I was talking to one of the chaperones, Noelle Adama, and she was telling me how in the beginning, the people from HCC didn't really understand what the foundation was about. So, because Maya means heart, and then gold is gold. So they thought it was like, we love gold foundation. Like, they were just confused. Which is another really interesting thing about language. Like, a word in English, what just happened?
It's fine.
Okay, it's fine. A word in English can mean something totally different in another language. So, those are the sentences that I learned. Full sentences. I think nobody ever told me if I was saying it wrong or if they were just like, yeah, sure, you got it, yeah. But then So we had a ton of meetings before we went to Nepal, and at those meetings, we learned how to say two things in Nepali. We learned namaste, which is, you know, their greeting. They say it to every single person. Like, even if you're just walking down the street and, like, somebody is, like, walking towards you, they say namaste, you say namaste. It's really beautiful. In Nepal, they have this like community. It's everybody is either a brother or a sister, a mother, a father. So we learned how to say namaste, which is way more than hello. It means the light in me honors the light in you, which is, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Okay. And then we also learned how to say dhanyavad, which is something only Americans say. It means thank you. because in Nepal they don't say it because, you know, everything is sort of just expected. They have this like service in their culture. It's just like expected. So you shouldn't have to thank somebody for something that's just expected. That was also really cool. And then another thing, which isn't a word, it's just like, you know, the head bob. They do it in India too, this little head bob. I know, like in America, we have like, I mean, like, I don't know, whatever. But in Nepal and India, it means yes. So if you're ever going to Nepal or India and they do this, it means yes. It doesn't mean, I don't know, it means yes. So, the final thing that I found really interesting was they all spoke English. Like almost all of the people, even some of the people in really, really distant rural villages, like at least one of them spoke English, which was like a little bit sad, like because they all spoke English, but none of us knew anything about their language. You know what I mean? I feel like in America, everybody's so wrapped up in their own thing, and like, I was actually, this girl, we had an exchange student from Korea, and she spoke like really good English, and then none of us knew any Korean. It was just like, weird. And I think that we could all benefit from, you know, learning how to communicate with other people, you know, that aren't necessarily people that we speak to on a daily basis. And actually, I still speak to Sankar, who's from Nepal. I still speak to him, not on a daily basis, but I like to check in on him, see how everything's going at Kusigar, you know, ask him to teach me how to say a few things. And then, the last thing that I'm going to teach you all how to say was the thing I was most proud of, which is a little weird, but I was really proud because I learned how to count to 10, which is, I feel like, something that everybody kind of learns at first. You know, like in Spanish or French, you learn how to count to 10. It's like, I don't know, it's just like a first step. So, 1, you learned in how to ask for manure. It's ek, dui, tin, char, pach, cha, sat, no, dos. And that's how to count to 10. And their letters and numbers are like beautiful. They're just, I don't know, they're just like really cool. Actually, the 1 looks like a 9, and I was really confused because I saw this poster at the Singadevi school of all of the numbers. I think it was like 1 to 100, and there was a 9 in the first place, and I was like, why is there a 9? You know what I mean? So something interesting. So that's a little bit of what I learned in Nepal, in Nepali, and I was able, even though I didn't really learn a lot, I was able to have like a really basic preliminary conversation with somebody, and it just like gave me this like sense of joy. And also, there's a joke I play on Matthew, our amazing camera guy. Close the shot, Matthew.
Momos.
See? He didn't learn anything. He didn't learn anything from the presentation.
Except how to ask for momos.
But you don't even know how to ask for it. You just know how to say momos. Momos. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Momos.
Perfect. Yeah. Exactly.
What is it?
Momos? Okay. Momos are... Oh, it's such a deep question. Momos are like dumplings. Okay, so some of them are steamed. You can get them steamed or fried. And every single restaurant you go to in Nepal makes them completely different. Completely different. So like, some of them have vegetables, some of them can have like chicken. They're just dumplings, you know, fried or steamed. But then we went to this one place in around the Stupa, and they had like, it was like dough. They were dough momos, and I was like, what? It was just weird. It was weird. But those are momos. They're just dumplings. Any other questions?
I have another one.
Okay.
What's the significance of the stupa?
Very interesting question. I was actually talking to Matthew about this the other day. I watched this really long documentary about it because that's what he does. So the stupa. So there's 8 stupas. The stupa is basically a temple or like a monastery. That's there. So there are 8 stupas throughout Nepal and India, right? Okay. So 8 stupas, and in the very beginning, the Buddha was separated into 8 parts, and they distributed the bones of the Buddha into each of those temples, and so that's how they become so sacred and like such a. And there are prayer wheels all around the stupa, and you have to walk around to the clockwise. You walk clockwise, and you have to you roll all of the prayer wheels, and they give you, and a lot of people, they have the beads. Most of the monks go there and they have the beads, and they count, and they say a prayer, and it just, I guess the prayer comes true or something. I don't know, we didn't learn like a whole lot about it, but we went there like every day, so yeah. Any more questions? Yes.
Moto Mili Maya Korchu.
Moto Mili Maya Gorchu. Is that it?